Welcome to Top 5, a show where we count things down from number 5 all the way to number 1. This week, Top 5 Donuts. Yes, the fried dough that we all love to shove into our mouths. 5 donuts from each of us. Matthew, what do you have for your number 5?
I just about said my number 5 is a cannoli, but that would be rude because
Yeah, you want to be on the show again in the future.
Exactly. See, I need to say that. And so I didn't because that would have been wrong.
Also not a donut.
I'm a good person. My number 5 is, now, if you say this is not a donut, it could be legit. I don't know. I know that when I go to a donut shop and I say, hello, where are your donuts? They usually have like a case. And I go to the local Daylight Donuts and I say, hey, do you have the fritters? And they say, yes, we have apple fritters. And I say, do you have cherry fritters? And they look at me like a dog attacked by an entire squadron of flautists because nobody has my number 5, the cherry fritter, any longer. Like, you can get an apple fritter, and an apple fritter is basically just like almost a funnel cake type of dough with usually some chunks of apple or like apple syrup or maybe the apple pie filling in it. And then it's deep fried, and then they cover the whole thing with the sugar and the slorg. But the kind that's better is the cherry. And it used to be that, you know, the local places here, usually you can get donuts at any of like 5 donut places. And of course the grocery stores, they'd have that fritter in apple or cherry. But now it seems all they have is the apple. So when I think of the cherry fritter, I think of, you know, times long gone and people who have left, and all of my ex-girlfriends, wherever they are, probably out there, you know, somewhere eating cherry fritters with a much better looking rich husband. And that's why my number 5 donut is a cherry fritter.
My number 5 is the just good old fashioned Krispy Kreme glazed donut. Something about a Krispy Kreme glazed donut when it comes off the assembly line and it's nice and warm and it's just been dipped in the glaze material, whatever that is. I think it's sugar saturated in water and then left to dry in the sun. But boy, do Krispy Kreme glazed donuts sure hit the spot on a cold morning. So that's my number 5.
Right.
That's my number 4.
That's your number 4? Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you like it as your number 4?
I appreciate the Krispy Kreme standard donut because I feel like it's agreed upon. Like if somebody's like, okay, somebody has to bring the donuts and you bring assorted donuts, you're going to end up with something like nobody wants that maple bar or too many people want that maple bar. But usually if you bring the standard Krispy Kreme donuts, everybody's like, okay, I'm going to either eat this donut, not eat this donut, or be a huge weirdo and tear half of it and eat that.
Oh, I hate those people.
Because I'm on a diet or because I want to project that I'm on a diet or whatever. It's like, just take the whole donut, and if you don't finish it, hand it to someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. I put it in my number 5 because, as you said, it's kind of the expected donut. So it's kind of like the baseline. But now I'm very curious, Rodrigo, what you have below a Krispy Kreme glazed donut.
Below a Krispy Kreme glazed donut, I have a white powdered sugar donut.
Oh, okay.
I think that actually those might be the most standard type of donuts because to get a Krispy Kreme style donut, you have to go to a Krispy Kreme or to your local grocery, which is going to have pretty close to identical glazed donuts. But white powder sugar donuts will keep, whereas like Krispy Kreme style donuts won't. Eventually, all of that glazing will either fall off or completely calcify, and they'll like turn a weird white. But you can make donuts, sprinkle them with powdered sugar, stick them on the shelf, and they're there forever. I've had a lot of these. They're not higher on the list because they are, even though they're good, they're also like kind of a hazard. Like, I don't know how many times I've like had one and just immediately had a puff of powdered sugar go directly into my throat or try to go up my nasal cavities, and then I end up coughing a lot. I look like I just took a swig from a talcum bottle.
Yep. Matthew, what do you have for your
Those
number?
Those are actually my number 3.
Oh, okay.
the
So give us a
powdered donuts,
rundown.
but specifically the terrifying bag of the gas station powdered donuts. Because if you're ever going on a long road trip, you can't necessarily get decent donuts. And in a lot of cases, you're just like, I'm going to grab whatever's there that's easy to package. So you get those donuts, and they come in like two varieties. There's the kind that's covered in weird shards of something that purports to be peanut, and then you have the white ones, just the little white ones. And if you get the little round ones, they're moist enough, hopefully not from mold, but possibly, but they're moist enough to hold that white powdered sugar, and you can just get the one big bite and you can take it. You're fine. You don't have to worry about the melting of the chocolate. You don't have to worry about, the disgusting peanuts stabbing you in the gums, which is now a thing in my 50s that I never thought existed. But most importantly, they are, when Rodrigo says standard, I think of that as like 100% standard. Like when you go and you're like, I have a 1995 Chrysler and I need you to give me a lug nut that fits on that car. That's what a donut is. A donut is the food equivalent of a lug nut. It will never be awesome. It will never necessarily jump out and, have you calling for Bobby Flay to compliment the chef, but you'll never be disappointed when you eat my number 3, a lug nut.
I did not put any powdered donuts on my list for the main reason, and I agree, donuts are fine. The problem is that powder gets everywhere. Like, heaven forbid, Rodrigo starts to look like a 50-year-old man with white powder in his beard and mustache. But white powdered donuts, the powder gets all over your shirt, all over your pants, all over your steering wheel, all over wherever you are at, and it's. I tell you, I think the CSI people should use donuts as a white powdered donuts as a way to canvass a crime scene, because that stuff gets everywhere.
Like somebody yells makeup,
yeah,
and then you get hit with like a giant puff.
Yeah.
All right,
I've actually found a solution to the powdered sugar problem,
which is
I just don't care.
Yeah, there you go, Matthew. What do you have for your number 4?
My number 4 is another lovely donut from our local Daylight Donuts. And when I say Daylight Donuts, in Kansas, and I think all over the Midwest in the United States at least, a Daylight Donuts is like an IGA. It's not like part of a giant chain, but they're like, hey, Daylight Donuts, they say, these are the things that we serve, and you kind of have a feeling for what you're going to get, even though it's not necessarily the same store. And my local Daylight Donuts for the last 25 years has had a chocolate peanut butter donut. So it's chocolate cake with a glaze that is basically just sugar and butter and some peanut butter or maybe some peanut flavoring. I don't know. But you cannot go wrong. If you look in a box of donuts and you don't recognize anything, but you see the dark chocolate, you see the topping with just that glaze, and it's that kind of peanut butter colored glaze, bam, you got it, it's good. If you grew up in the 70s like I did, that you get the chocolate in the peanut butter. Everybody loves it. It's like a Reese's peanut butter cup, only in a small cake form. And you just literally cannot go wrong with the chocolate peanut butter. My number 4.
My number 4 is the Bear Claw. Let's face it, all donuts are just dough fried in something and then covered with something. But the Bear Claw, there's something about the Bear Claw. Maybe it's its shape, because it looks like a hand that's about to slap you, a big old bear claw that's about to rip up your insides at 10 o'clock in the morning after you've downed 5 coffees. But there's something about that Bear Claw that when you bite into it, it has a little extra chewiness. And maybe because it's it doesn't have a hole in the middle, so you get some stuff that maybe, I don't want to say undercooked, but it's a little bit springier than the rest of the donut. But the Bear Claw, it's got a funny shape, it's got a funny name, and it tastes real good. That is my number 4. We already did Rodrigo's number 4. We've done Matthew's number 3. So now
we're
it's
back
time.
to you.
Yes, we're back to me with my number 3. Matthew already talked a lot about it, even though I didn't talk about it in his number 5, because his number 5 was the cherry fritter. My number 3 is the apple fritter. Again, it's basically the same consistency of a Bear Claw, but drizzled instead of formed. and covered with, chunks of apple pie, essentially, and then fried and then covered with the stuff. It's got some cinnamon on it. Sometimes it may have nuts. I'm not a big fan when I see it with nuts on it, but the apple fritter, boy, that's a good donut. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 3?
My number 3 is a blueberry cake donut. And it's not so much that I love specifically the blueberry ones. It's just that I feel like cake donuts tend to need something else, like a little pop, because they're dense, right? So having a cake donut is fine, or like a slightly flavored one is fine, but I do like the ones that have blueberries in them, because then along with like a very dense amount of dough and sugar, you're also getting at least a little bit of fruit. And I'm not saying for health reasons, I'm not deluding myself that blueberry is going to do anything. I'm saying you have that like brightness of a little bit of fruit flavor.
Do you like your blueberries like whole blueberries, or are they crushed up and spread throughout the dough so that the donut looks kind of purplish?
I'm okay with either. Hopefully, I would prefer them whole, but I recognize that when you do that, then they're a lot less likely to be sort of like evenly distributed. You'll have like a clump at the top of the donut, or maybe like one on the top and one on the bottom. So I recognize that if they're part of the baking process rather than something that maybe gets added close to the end, that it's going to be, I'm going to get a lot more blueberries. So either one is okay, I guess.
All right. Very cool. All right. We are moving up this list very quickly because we have duplicated so much. But we are into our number 2, Top 5 Donuts. And before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who is part of our Discord community. They are wonderful people over there. There's so much going on. It's a welcoming community, unlike some places, formerly known as Twitter, that are just now a hazard to your health. The Major Spoilers Discord server and the Top 5 Donuts that we have for you this week are good for you. Just trust us on this. Go check us out. Hang out with us over on our Major Spoilers Discord. Jump into the Top 5 channel, and let's have a party. You can find a link in the show notes. You can join absolutely for free. All right, here we are in our number 2s. Matthew, what do you have for your number 2 donut?
I am almost, and I say almost with an asterisk, because if there are any 2 people in the world who will surprise me, it is you 2 fellers. But I'm almost certain that this is not going to be a duplicate, because it's a donut that I have only recently discovered myself.
Is it the Homer Simpson donut?
No.
Is it the Cookie Monster donut?
That?
It's literally, there's a place. What's this place called? It's a national chain, but it's it's Hertz. It's the Hertz donut. It's the Hertz donut is the name of the company, and their main donut is a Homer Simpson donut, like you would see. It's a pink covered donut,
like a pink sprinkle.
Yeah. They're pink sprinkles.
Yeah, Hertz donuts. They're
no.
I think the closest one to us is in Wichita. I bet it's just a donut. It's like a Krispy Kreme glazed donut with sprinkles and pink frosting.
Would not go to Wichita if you paid me money. Anyway, this is actually something that I discovered literally maybe a week or so ago. I was going in to get donuts for my workplace, and I showed up what I thought was early, but it was apparently late enough that the early rush was over, and early enough that they hadn't quite gotten into the first part of the late rush, whatever that means. So all they had was Apple Crunch donuts. And so an Apple Crunch donut is, if you've ever had like the filled donuts, the ones that are kind of fluffy, but they are filled with like the Bavarian cream or the chocolate cream. This is filled with apple filling. So apples and something like pie filling, but a little bit more. It tasted more like food, with vanilla frosting on top. And then it was covered with little shattered peanuts that did not stab me in the teeth. And the first time I bought these, I was like, man, everybody's going to hate me. I took a box in and it was literally 6 donuts, and all of them were Apple Crunch. And everybody in my workplace went, oh, these are really good. And you have to understand that doesn't happen. I have one coworker who's like only going to eat the caramel donut, one who always wants red velvet, one who's like, I don't even like sweets, and then goes and eats a whole bunch of donuts anyway. But for everybody to say, ooh, these were impressive, I feel like that was, a big deal. And I really love them. And lately I have not had a great love for sweet things or greasy type things, like anything donutty that's been deep fried. Sometimes my mouth is like, ooh, this tastes like we're licking a McDonald's ashtray in 1984. That's actually exactly what my mind thinks because, well, that's how my mind goes. But
plus, there was that whole incident where you were licking ashtrays from McDonald's in 1984. So
in 1984,
yeah. Let's just move on, so we don't have to think about that anymore. So yeah,
that's just hurtful. That's hurtful, Stephen. But I'm going to give you that one because I opened with a thing, and I kind of deserve that. So here's the deal: Apple Crunch Donut. If you ever get a chance, buy them. I know they have them in the city of Topeka. I know they have them in the city of Lawrence. Other than that, I got nothing. But they're good.
So I guess my number 2 is one. I'm surprised we haven't hit the. Now Matthew had the first one with a filling, but we really haven't hit the jelly filled donuts quite yet. And so my number 2 is the raspberry filled donut. Now, I don't mind if it's a plain donut. It's the plain fried dough with the raspberry filling. That's fine. Chocolate on top, that's okay. But I just kind of like it plain. There's something about being able to bite into the donut and figuring out, how close am I to the center? Is it going to squirt jelly out over everywhere? I will abide by the white powder covered raspberry filled donut, but generally just a plain donut that's nice and fried. It's got the warm filling on the inside. That's a sweet spot for me. And often it is a little bit too sweet, because it'll set your teeth on edge when you hit that sugary raspberry jelly filling. But that's my number 2, the raspberry jelly donut. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 2?
My number 2 is a raspberry filled donut.
Woohoo!
I'm starting to think that there just aren't that many kinds of donuts.
I'm looking at the Hertz Donuts website as we talk right now. Here are their Bismarcks, which is what a filled donut is. They have banana cream filled, Bavarian cream filled. They have something called the Captain Crunch, which is a jelly donut with Captain Crunch sprinkled on top. They have something called the Chewbacca, which is just a donut covered in hair. I don't know what that is. They have key lime filled. Now that one actually sounds really good. My dad's favorite are the lemon filled. They have a Lucky Charms one, which is like the Captain Crunch, except this one's covered in the marshmallows from the Lucky Charms, and then the raspberry filled one. So, yeah, lots of donuts in that Bismarck category.
Yeah, I mean, I like a good raspberry filled donut. I also don't particularly want it to have anything on top. Again, because it tends to be so sweet already. I feel like you can really ruin a raspberry donut, like filled donut, by putting chocolate on it.
Yeah.
Raspberries good though.
Yeah, but keep it simple. I had one time I ordered donuts and an assortment of donuts, and one of the ones I got was a peanut butter and jelly donut. So it was like a strawberry or raspberry filled donut with peanut butter on top, and it was excessive. Like when you bite into a donut, like donuts are already, and these were like donuts from a donut shop, right? So they were good donuts. They were doughy. And so when you bite into it, there's like that thing where like there's like it just kind of puffs to the side of your mouth. But then if like one side of that is coated in peanut butter, you basically just Mr. Ed yourself for the rest of the day. Like you're going to be chewing on that for a while. It was not a pleasant experience just for the texture, but I guess it was fine.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the top spot. Before we get into that top spot, though, hey, we enjoy doing this show for you, and hopefully you enjoy having us do this show for you. So here's what you can do. If you like this show, you want to see it continue, please hop over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/majorspoilers. You can join us over there, become one of our superheroes. You can kick in as little as, $2 a month or $5 a month. That's the sweet spot where you start getting some of the extras that we have over there. Find out more. Patreon.com/major spoilers. And now the moment you've been waiting for, our top donut. What you got me there, Matthew?
I want to take you back. I want to take you back to the year 1984.
All right.
I
was wearing parachute pants.
McDonald's ashtray. Were you? you were parachute pants.
I was
and you
parachute
were like dancing in the background.
I was break dancing. I was trying to save the rec center.
You were totally in love with Paula Abdul,
Yep.
but she was cheating on you with a cartoon kitty cat.
Those Boogaloo shrimp donuts were the best.
Oh, those were great. Yeah. I actually preferred the Adolfo Quinones fried dough thingy with the thing on the top, whose name I would have remembered and made this joke really stick. But nonetheless, in the year 1984. Thank you. That's perfect. I was thinking the conchas, but those aren't technically donuts, are they? Anyway, I want you to imagine three nerds in the year 1984. There's one short, one fat, and one really tall, because that's how the universe works. You know, it's like the Fantastic Mr. Fox. And so one of them, the short one, got a job in a donut shop, which meant getting up at 3 a.m. Now, the fat one and the tall one both like donuts, which meant that they would go and visit their pal at the donut shop and get free donuts. And one of the things that this donut shop had was the coconut cake donut. So simple cake donut, you know, like an old fashioned almost, just a donut. It's a donut. It's a freaking donut. And then you dip it. You don't like cover it with the glaze, but you dip it in the glaze so that it's like gloopy and covered with glaze. Like the first time you try to change the oil in your car and everything is just gloopy. And then you roll that in flake coconut and you let it kind of dry and you put it out and you're like, oh, I'm going to buy this and it's going to be a good donut. I'll be fine. But no, my friends, it is a transcendent experience. It is a life-changing donut. Because I want to make it clear, I was the tall, skinny one at the time. And now I stand before you, the fattest person you know, statistically speaking. And I tell you right now that if I have a chance to go and get a coconut cake donut, I still will. And I will think back to 1984 and I will hear a flock of seagulls in my head. And I will be riding my red BMX bicycle with the gold rims. And I will just go, you know, we were idiots, but here's the thing. We had good donuts. And that's why my number one was the coconut cake donut from 1984.
I was wondering when the cake donut was going to show up, because all the other donuts that we've talked about so far are yeast-based dough. The cake donut is just, you know, like cake dough that you fry. And my number one is also just your regular plain cake donut covered in regular sugar, not powdered sugar, but just dipped in sugar,
like white sugar.
Yeah.
Just sugar.
Yeah, it's so plain. It's not. I call it a coffee donut. Other people would say the old fashioned is a coffee donut. That's fine. I don't drink coffee, so the cake donut is one of those that's like, it's good in milk. Although don't let it stay in the milk too long, because it'll soak up too much milk and fall off, and then you've got a cup of milk and you've got a donut that's broken with no milk on it. But yeah, the cake donut with sugar, that's it for me. That's the one that I'll go to anytime. People will bring a variety box home of donuts or to work with the variety box, and I'll be beelining it right to the cake donut, because in my mind, that's the best donut that you can have. Rodrigo, wrap us up with your number one donut.
My number one is something that has become a real problem because I have DoorDash and I know a relatively nearby donut shop. The only good thing is that they maintain kind of old school donut shop hours and that they probably open at 5.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't know because I'm not up at that time, but they definitely close. They're definitely closed by 7, like possibly 6. So if I get a late night craving for this, I can't just have some person bring me one. But if it's during the day, then there's not much that can be done about it. And this is a lemon curd donut. So your Bismarck, as you were saying, with filled with a lemon curd filling. Usually, I get the kind that then has like a vanilla glaze on top, because the other option is that sort of like standard granulated sugar,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't like that as much for some reason. I think it's because the lemon curd is smooth, and I just want to over like a generally smooth experience. You get the icing, you get the lemon curd, and then about 10 to 15 minutes later, you get into a sugar coma, and you're sitting there doing whatever you were doing, thinking like, why do I feel so tired? Like I feel like I can't even do anything. Oh man, it's like 3 hours until bedtime. Why am I so tired right now? Just the lemon curd icing.
Your
donut.
blood sugar is
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
You have
Yeah, yeah.
crashed.
Yep.
Or as I call it, carb nap.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
Oh, very, very good. That sounds like a good donut, Rodrigo. Any donut that makes you want to go back to bed after you get up in the morning, definitely on a list. Here are some other ones that we could have talked about. Again, I'm going off the Hertz Donut location. I'm looking at their locations. Sadly, there's nothing in Topeka, nothing up in the Seattle, Washington area. It looks like it's mostly a southern Midwest chain. The closest one is outside of Wichita would be Colorado, Oklahoma City. There's some in St. Louis, Arkansas, Dallas, New Orleans has got one, all the way in Phoenix and up into Minnesota, and looks like Cincinnati has one as well. So if you've got a Hertz Donuts location in your neighborhood, go check them out. They have some crazy stuff, including, I thought this was going to appear on somebody's list, the Maple Bacon Bar. It's a maple long john
almost
covered in bacon.
Yeah. I do love
it.
a
Is a
maple
lot.
bacon bar.
Rodrigo said he had a donut that was a lot. This one is a lot. I can only eat like a third of one of these, whether it's from Hertz Donuts or wherever. I can only eat about a third of these just because the bacon and the maple covering, and then the donut is just so rich.
Yeah, like a regular donut is already pushing it as far as both sugar and fat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like the bacon maple bar is like just overboard in the fat category.
Are we too old for donut holes?
No,
but donut holes are like an aperitif, like a sorbet to clear the palate in between donuts. They're not actually a food, you know. It's like your soda comes with ice cubes, and you get to crunch on the ice cubes. But I mean, you don't consider the ice cubes a part of the meal.
Anybody a fan of the red velvet with cream cheese donut?
I like red velvet, but I also find that red velvet has a richness problem for me, where it's almost too much sweet and too much. Oh man, I'm just going forward.
Is that baked, or is that also fried? Because it seems
no, it's baked.
The red velvet
is
a cake donut.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was going to say, it seems like frying that would like undo a lot of what the red velvet.
No. But the thing that the red velvet part is good. It's if done right, and it depends on the store you go to. If done right, it's nice and moist red velvet cake. The problem where it gets to me is too much sweet cream cheese on top. That's where it gets me. So, dear listeners, what are your thoughts? Head over to our Discord server, jump in the top 5 channels, share your top 5 donuts, and maybe we will all have to get together and have a donut meal together. Oh, that sounds really good. Why? Because everybody loves a donut and everybody loves a list. Take care.
This podcast is copyright 2023 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.